Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Greet the Week. I'm Jan Moray, and I'm here with my co-host, Mona Duncan, and we have several other guests joining us. Welcome to everybody. And today's topic is the power of influence.
Power of
Mona
what?
says, the power of influence. And Mona says here, influence is one of those invisible, mystical things that touches us in ways we do not understand. We don't even know when it has swayed us or the impact that it has carried much later. So Mona, let's talk about the power of influence that we don't realize we have.
Well, we do. Everybody has influence, and we are always influencing. We just don't even know it. It's one of those automatic things, especially now with COVID-19. The medical things are coming out and they're showing you how that just in talking and that you're always, sending out spittle and all kinds of stuff. It's just showing out. But we also have this energy exchange. We're always exchanging energy with someone. So we have this kind of a spectrum here, and one is kind of neutral in the middle that's not even aware of it, and then on one end it's maybe a good influence, and on one end it'd be like a negative influence or just a feeling of something. There's kind of an energy exchange, but it's always going on, and often it is later. Too often we don't get it, and it's
Right.
not. Our first reaction to something does not have to be our only reaction. And I want to be open to whatever arises and to welcome it, knowing that there is a life lesson in it somewhere. And I found in looking, I like to, how I love words.
Yes.
And in looking at influence and some of the synonyms that goes with it and exactly what it means and all of that, it doesn't have an opposite.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I never thought of that there might be words that don't have opposites.
Yeah. Well, I know A Course in Miracles says that truth has no opposites, because if it's true, it's true. If it's not, it's not. It's good. But there's different shades of it, and you may be getting closer to truth even if it isn't. But the more I thought about that it does not have an opposite in the dictionary or in the thesaurus, I thought about the fact that we are always influencing either for positive or for negative. And
that's true. You don't really realize what your words, what kind of an impact they're going to have on people, because they don't respond right away. Sometimes they think about it, and then it's not till later that they kind of think, oh,
yeah,
I've been thinking about what you said. Yeah.
We have to think about that. The fact that what we say, what we do, that energy is exchanging, but we're not aware of it. I went to a meeting one time. There was a guest speaker there, and I was on the front row, and I am very diligent. I always take pad and paper because
Yes,
I like to make notes so I can remember what the person has said and think about it and all that. Well, anyway, this person was speaking, and to me it was a real snoozer.
Oh, okay.
I thought this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and I thought he was kind of kindergarten-y and all that kind of stuff. But I found that the next day as I was working, there was 2 or 3 times that something I was thinking or doing or reading made a kind of a jump back to what that person had said. And I began to think, oh, that's what he meant. And it's like, even though I thought it kindergarten at the time, it's like it gave a new light to it, a new reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, because I believe that we're connecting with people, whether we're with them or not, even if we're sheltered in place, we can still connect. But even then, I just sent a little thought system to the guy that, I'm sorry that I was so critical of you whenever you actually give it a talk. And I can see now where you were coming from.
Yeah.
And realizing that as these things influence us, and if it really is an influencing that it aligns with truth, it's going to bring peace.
So tell me more about that. If it's an influence that aligns with truth, it's going to bring me peace. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it'll bring peace. That, well, again, back with working with the prisoners, they were always talking about, I'm a good person. I just got in with the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
And I was always very diligent and faithful to follow up with the fact, do you realize that those other people in the crowd that, you got a part of the wrong crowd, they consider you as being part of the wrong crowd. And the majority of them own up to it, that, I can see that. That we're always being influenced, and we're influenced for a reason. It's just like everything we do is for a reason. There's something that's going to get us friendship, money, love, adoration, fame, glory. There's something that, there's something that draws us to that influence. But if it aligns with peace, or if it aligns with truth, what is really truth, it's going to keep us energetic and alive and healthy and mentally acute and all that kind of stuff, then the influence is good and it brings peace.
Okay, so if we're not in peace, then maybe we're not finding the truth.
Yeah, or at least it's time to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of just begin to
question what we're doing and whether that's really the best thing for us.
Right. Yeah. And am I there yet? You see that cartoon with kids always asking, am I there yet? Am I there yet?
Yeah.
Well, I ask sometimes, am I on the way? With all the things in the news and the uprest, and so
you constantly have to be checking to make sure you're on the right path. You set out on that direction, and you can't just keep going and going. Every once in a while, you have to sit back and say, okay, am I still headed where I wanted to go in the first place, or did I go off course?
Yeah. Well, in the opinion pages, every newspaper has the opinion page. Just a few days ago, there was a reader had written about and justifying all of the looting and vandalism and how systemic disparities is the underlying cause. And I'm not negating that. I'm saying that one was justifying it and saying that anyone who didn't understand was a part of the problem. Well, just right there on the same op-ed page or the opinion page was another reader that was denouncing all the protests and the marches and all of this kind of stuff. And you kind of think, well, maybe they get it, but then they are placing blame everywhere. And so whether we're for or against, we need to stop and look and see, what am I saying that is really being kind of myopic and kind of kindergarten-y because I'm not willing to look at a bigger scope. So just a couple of days after that, I don't know if it was the next day or not, but in the letters to the editor, there was a letter from Jack Burgess. And I know Jack Burgess. And he was responding to both of those people that had written in the opinion page. And he called them both out by name. And I love what I want to share with you what he said. He said, after he called him out by name, and anyway, he said, how about we sit down? How about you sit down with me for a cup of coffee and see if we can find some common ground?
Okay.
And then he goes on to talk about how that he was working with civil rights back before they were even born. Yeah. And he gave the way for them to get together. And he asked them to call the Tribune Herald itself because he had left a message to give them his phone number. You didn't put it in print.
In the paper, right. Yeah.
But
well, I think that's a great approach to get people on opposing sides to let's sit together and let's find out, what do we have in common? What values do we share? Because there has to be something, and that's where we can start and see where it goes from there. Because that's one of the things that's really becoming apparent for me. With all the stuff going on these days, and people have very differing points of view. And I admit that I'm very much on one side. And and then you start to understand where the other side is coming from. And it's like, okay, we've been arguing about this, we've been talking about this, but really it's something different. So let's get to what's really going on, and let's start to think about, I think we really have the same goal. It's just that we're approaching a little bit differently, and maybe we can come together.
Yeah. Matter of fact, when I read that, he said, let's just sit down and have coffee together. I thought, Jan, she's always saying, let's talk about it. But you know what? I agree 100%. We are all looking for the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just, are we going to get it by robbing for it,
Right.
by looting for it, by beating someone up, or are we going to get it through loving kindness?
Yeah.
And there's just such better ways to know how to get there. And so when I thought about that, it was Jack Burgess, and he was a congressman at one time, and knew him, and not a perfect person by any means, but it reminded me when I was looking at that. All of a sudden, I thought of an article that I read in a health magazine, and the article was entitled "You Don't Know Jack."
Oh.
And it was about a couple of mother had written in that had an autistic son, and was on the high end of the spectrum, and they named him Jack. He was on the high end of the spectrum, and had been advised from almost birth on to just put the child in a home and see him every once in a while, come see him at Christmas or whatever. And they refused to do that. And her title was "You Don't Know Jack." Now, had he become a superhero? Well, in a way, yes. But was, had very limiting means and so forth. But the thing of it is once you know anyone that has overcome, even to a degree, these disparaging things, it gives you hope that, the ceilings, that glass ceiling's been broken. Yeah. And if they did it, I can too.
Because, when you put them in a home, take them away, you've put them in a box. And you've said that you cannot survive in the regular society. So you have to be taken care of in special advantage, special accommodations. Why not give them support and provide support to help them to learn how to cope in the real world to an extent? I mean, obviously it's not going to be 100%, but at least to learn how to do it. You may be surprised as to what will happen. I think about my daughter. She's dyslexic, and I hear people talking today about sending their kids to schools just for dyslexic students. Where I don't remember there being such thing. There probably was when she was a kid, but I kept her in school, and we worked with her and put her through, and she did quite well, learning how to get through and to read and to learn how to read her own assignments and do her work and stuff. But what would have happened if she had been in a school and told all her life that she can't do this because she's got a learning disability and these are things she can't do? I was always, you can do it. It's a struggle. Of course, she always hated it when I said it's more of a struggle for you, or you learn differently. But she figured out how to do it, and we just need to support each other and to understand each other, and work together to get through whatever's going on.
Right, because life is hard.
It is. It is. And trying to make it easier for somebody doesn't help. They're not learning what they're capable of. It's you have to go through some hardships, and that's another thing that my daughter and I have argued about. She said, why do you think I have to go through hardships? Because that's where you really appreciate what's going on in life, and then you're proud of yourself. I did it. I made it. It's just,
so there has to be lessons. There has to be
lessons.
Responsibility. There has to be some vision that they can't overcome this. There has to be discipline.
Yeah.
And there'll probably be a lot of pushback from a lot of people.
Yes.
And it is, life is hard. And life is hard, even if we choose the undisciplined path. It's still hard.
It's
Even
still,
if you
that's right.
put someone away because it's easier for you to not deal with them. It
Yeah.
is still hard. And so we have the choice of which hard we're going to pursue,
Yeah.
of deciding which one is better, which attitudes, to go with kindness as opposed to unkindness, to go with keeping your word as opposed to breaking your word,
Yeah.
to go
And
with,
sometimes we just have to try it out. Even though people are telling us, no, that's the wrong way. Okay, that's fine. I'm giving you my opinion. You do what you want, and you got to figure it out on your own. And then you may decide that is the best way, or you may say, this is a little too difficult. Life is hard, but doesn't need to be this hard.
yeah. And it's that being loyal as opposed to duplicity, two-faced.
So explain that, being loyal.
Being loyal as opposed to just going along.
Okay, being loyal to
Being
your
loyal
values.
you can be loyal to someone and say, I appreciate your input. You may be right, but I'll have to find that out on my own.
Yeah.
It is not going along just to get along.
Right. Because that never works out real well in the end either.
No, it doesn't work out. And then it's also looking at being humble, realizing what the power of the influence is and how far it'll go. And it can only go so far.
Yeah.
And once we try to influence beyond the power, the energy that is given us, then it becomes destructive and dogmatic.
Mm.
And it goes back to generating the problem as opposed to bringing a solution.
Yeah. When you say in your little blurb here, influence is neutral. Talk more about that.
Well, there's just a lot of things that are neutral, and time is neutral. Time doesn't care what you do.
It's not good or
money
bad.
is neutral. If you've got money, it's not going to jump up and yell if you spend it for something or misuse it or lose it or whatever. There's just so many things in life that's neutral, and influence is neutral. I mean, we are influencing it when we don't even know we're influencing. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, and sometimes nobody even notices. Nobody even cares. It's just one of those things that's neutral. And you could go over, you could see it, and if you recognize it, you could love it and embrace it and be a part of it, or you could shun it and fight against it. And everybody else that's fighting against it is, it goes back up to what was on the op-ed pages, that if that's what you believe, then you're part of the problem. But that influence in and of itself is neutral. We're the one that gives it the energy. We're the one, as we stop and think about it. I think I've given the example with my dad before, that he always told me that, if you were looking for a helping hand, look at the end of your sleeve. And so I thought that was a very good, and so I did. I was always looking, I'll do it myself, and developed a whole lot of things that I could do myself. But then one day, I'm having some really difficulties, but I'm trying so hard, and Daddy's thoughts came back to me, look at the end of your sleeve. And I began, placing blame of did I not get a good enough education, blah, blah, blah. And I had this insight that came to me that said, well, the insight came and said, you can't do everything yourself. You're not created for that. We need one another. Mm-hmm. And you can't do it because you need other people. And sometimes they will come up and say, they may be critical, but when do you want to know that the boat won't float? While it's in the dry dock, or once you set sail? And you can at least listen to what the person has to say, or you can at least look for more information. Ask for help. Be willing to receive it. And I mean, I just want to live in the mystery. I don't want to have anything as being a closed book, that once I learn it, I know it, because I'm forgetting too many things that I have known at one time. But even if I do know it, and even if it brings back that resonance, I want to see what else is it. What else is it? How can I see it in a kindergarten-y way that gives me a new vision, a new insight, a new flavor to it? Because
Yeah,
it's just,
yeah. Normally when you think of influence, at least for me in my mind, you're coming up with that somebody's actually doing something to you. But I think what you're talking about is just like watching a person and listening to a person, that they're not necessarily trying to get you to do something. You're just, they're just setting an example or teaching you.
exactly. And sometimes we can get more. I mean, you know, you can observe a lot when you observe.
Yes, you can. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And sometimes it's just observing. It's just, sometimes we, you know, well, I worked with hospice for a while,
Mm.
and I was a volunteer with them. And I began to realize how hard it is to die. Because, you know, the hospice people, they choose to not go with drastic measures, and just to die peacefully, and to die
Mm-hmm.
with loved ones and so forth. But it's difficult for them, because the closer you get to death, it was the more thinking of things they didn't say and didn't do and didn't do this. Well, back whenever I first started speaking, also would do some writing, and I called it My Words Exactly. And that if someone wanted to have a toast for someone, or they wanted to, you know, write a birthday card or something, and they didn't know what to say, talk to me, and I'd listen to them and see if I could say it in words that they didn't know how to say.
Oh,
Called it
okay.
My Words Exactly. So anyway, as I was working with the hospice people, I just began to ask them. I said, well, was there anything you would like to have told someone that maybe you didn't, or something you would like to explain? And, you know, I could take some notes and write it out for you. And
I bet
it
they
would,
appreciated that.
very much so. Very much so. It was really good. You know, for them, it was, get down, kitty. It was good for me too. It was good for me too. To really hear not only the words they were using, but to hear what they didn't know, what they were, you know, what they wanted to say, but didn't know how to say it.
Yeah.
And there was many times that I would take it and I would really think about it, and you know, begin to write something out and take it back to them, and type it up, you know, really nice for them. And it would be, oh yeah, 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 this is exactly what I wanted to say. And
So then would they tell their loved one that, the one who was dying,
or even give it to them.
okay.
You know, like the one that's dying would give it to the son, give it to the daughter.
Okay. So the people who were dying in hospice were the ones that were saying that they didn't.
Right, right. And I had many of the
Yeah.
families to come back
Yeah.
and say, you know, so thankful. So thankful.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. It's hard sometimes to come up with those words and all the emotion that comes with it. And so to have somebody to be able to put those thoughts together and put them in words, I think that was a great service. I think you should continue doing that. it's because there's a lot of people that have trouble. I would think there's a lot of people that would have trouble finding the words. And
Yes. But just being an influence, but just realize, maybe it's just come to the fact of realizing the fact that I am influencing people.
yeah,
And am I okay with it? Meaning that not to beat yourself up, but to say, could I have behaved better?
mm-hmm.
As we begin to realize that even in passing, even on the street, you know, just to speak to someone, to nod to them, just to acknowledge the fact that they're there. And I'm not just talking about those that are different from us. I'm talking about even those that are the same as us.
Yeah,
Just to acknowledge, just to influence, to see your neighbor in the yard and to wave at them,
yeah,
as opposed to just keep going on and ignore.
right.
Because you know what? It's hard to go grocery shopping. It's hard to go anywhere anymore. And especially with our mask now. But we got to not do that. I saw this lady the other day. She was at the other end of the aisle, and I said, I believe that is blank blank, even though she has her mask on. And we just need to speak. We need to reach out and touch someone. The FTD Forrest go with the flower or not.
Well, we do need to acknowledge it. I mean, I've talked about this here many times, and every morning I go for a walk, and I see people, and I say hello to everybody. Anyone driving by in their car, I wave at them, and just it helps me to feel better. I feel good. It's connecting in a way, and there's a lot of people I don't even realize I'm seeing them day after day, but then they comment, "Oh yeah, you're the one who's always walking." I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, that's me." and then I had somebody said, "Yeah, you and I have talked before," and I was like, "Okay, good." But it's really a good feeling to connect with people, and even if it's just a hello or a smile or a wave, or that helps to set the mood for the day. I guess in a way that is influencing people, right? That's what your whole point is.
Yeah. And so I have a little poem here by Ken the
Okay. Okay.
May I be happy, well, and at peace. May I be open to things just as they are. May I experience the world opening to me just as I am. May I welcome whatever arises. May you be happy, well, and at peace. May you open to things just as they are. May you experience the world opening to you just as you are. May you welcome whatever arises.
Okay. We have to learn to just welcome whatever's going on, all this stuff that's going on now. We welcome it, and we accept it, and keep moving forward, and look into our hand at the end of that sleeve and doing something. Lots of tidbits from today. So thanks for the message, Mona. Any other parting words? Or if not, we'll close for today, and we'll be here again next week for another edition of Greet the Week. And for those of you who are here live, you can hang on and we'll open up the discussion. Thank you.